Chasin The Racin, powered by Colchester Kawasaki. Part of the Global Moto Group, we supply new Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Royal Enfield, Kawasaki, Sim, Mutt and Benelli motorcycles.
3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin The Racin, episode 148, and we're delighted to be joined by Frank Wrathall Jr. We're dressed to impress here, looking very smart, even got the special occasion watch out. Happy days.
I don't know what you're talking about. Well, not as smart as you, though.
Well, I seen you all dressed up, so I thought I'd best put my shirt on, but
What happened to Tom?
I've been asking myself for that for years, mate. Absolutely years.
Yeah, I like repping the Crow performance.
I know, it's a nice gilet, isn't it? I can't afford things like this, Chrissy. I thought I'd nick yours. They are simple as that. There you go. I'll tell you what, though, we've just found out you're our biggest fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've listened to every 148.
Oh, well done. Well recovered. There you are. But
have you honestly never listened to one?
No.
Just not get the time?
Time. Yeah.
And choice.
No, sometimes when you've been dealing with motorbikes all day, when you go home, probably listening to people talk about motorbikes isn't what you want to do. So, I've never listened to one.
Good man. Good.
But I know how good they are.
Good, well saved.
And you are doing a good job.
Oh, thanks very much.
There you are.
Are you busy this time of the year down at DynoJet UK HQ?
Yeah, so I'd say probably dyno work-wise, this would probably be our busiest time of the year. Probably between March and the TT. That's where people are getting prepared. We're not just racing, we do a lot of road bikes, Harley Davidsons. Who
would buy a Harley Davidson thing? Let's get it fueled right. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Learning
can
all
make
the time,
make. To be honest, mapping can absolutely transform a Harley Davidson. So if you're a Harley owner and you're watching, first thing you need to do is sort your mapping out. But a lot of our industry is dictated by the weather. So people want to lock the bikes up over winter, put them in the garage. Sort of this time of year, right? Let's one eye on the summer and the weather coming good. So people track days, people going to Spain, people testing, upcoming race season, and then obviously people wanting to get the road bike sorted. So yeah, we're always busy.
And I guess when people bring new bikes out, it's always a rush in it for, like, say, if a manufacturer brings a new bike, it's usually just before the season. So I bet this time of the year is like a bit of a mad rush to get. In fact, other than I'm trying to think of like new models that have just come out, but there's not.
Yeah, you see, the job changed maybe 10 years, 15 years ago. Manufacturers would bring new sports bikes out in probably 2-year cycles. So it'd always be interesting. There'd always be something new, question marks, blah, 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 blah. The way the job is now, we sort of go from season to season with not too much change. So, if you look at the superbike class, is there a new bike? I don't think there is.
Yeah, I don't think this year. I think.
Very good point. When's the last time there was a new superbike on the grid?
Well, the Fireblade was a new bike.
Fireblade. When did the Ducati change hands?
A couple of years ago.
Was that 2 years ago?
So they went from the V-twin to the V4.
I think Suzuki's the longest. Like that model of bike came out a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, it's not changed since you rode it.
Yeah, 2018, and yeah, it's been ages. But yeah, in terms of people might not, like, if you're not into BSB or like into the racing, you might not have heard of DynoJet UK. So do you want to just give a quick rundown of like what the business is and like your involvement with BSB and that sort of thing? Okay,
well, might as well sort of start from the very beginning. So back in the 70s, my dad, Frank Sr., my little lad's called Frank as well, and my granddad was Frank, so there's 4 of us in a row now. Makes life a little bit confusing.
For me.
We're scared of like spicing things up, you know what I mean? Like, I want to call him Daniel, don't you dare.
If you all go for a family meal, this one's for Frank.
But for me, I don't want to say laziness, but it's a very, there's a lot of pressure on naming your kid. And like, there's a lot of long convos there to be had with the missus, so it's just easier saying, "No, it's Frank. That's it. It's done. Let's talk about something else."
Jeez, was that it? How hard was it to persuade the wife into Frank? Go on, be honest. Be honest.
No, yeah, she was fine.
Right.
She didn't have a choice.
No wonder you married her.
Is it like the firstborn of every generation is called Frank? Is that just like a running?
Well,
thing?
yeah, since my since my granddad. I don't know. Yeah, tradition, innit? So anyway,
Class.
my dad he started racing sidecars back when sidecars were massive.
Oh, are we talking pilot or passenger?
Pilot.
Pilot.
Yeah.
Jesus.
So when he was young, I think he did 3 TTs. Best finish of 6th, I think.
Fair play.
And actually, there is a funny story there because a couple of years ago, someone said to me, he said, "Oh, did your dad have a yellow and black sidecar?" I said, yeah, yellow and black. He said, "Did he have a crash at Sarah's cottage?" I said, "Yeah, he had a massive crash there." He said, "Oh, they found his fairing." So, yeah, I know, yeah. So, literally, I'm talking this maybe 3-4 years ago now. They've been renovating Sarah's cottage.
Yeah.
And they cleared out all the grounds around it. And there's like bit debris and stuff there. And they pulled out his fairing that he chucked over the wall after his crash.
You're joking.
Just to get rid of it. And it was like pristine. So I think the year after they actually put it on display. And like a bit of a backstory between it. But yeah, it'd been there since 79 or something like that, 80, whatever. Yeah, I've been there for a few years.
I'm surprised your dad hasn't been back over going, I want it back here. Get it resold.
Well, they asked like that. Yeah, they asked if anyone owned it and wanted it back, and I was like, yeah, let's get it back. And then we thought, you know what we're going to do with it?
Just stick it on the roof.
Yeah, it's a piece of junk, isn't it? So there's more meaning of it actually being on display over there. So he progressed through his career, and he was he was an engineer at British Aerospace, so very, very good, very clever man.
So he spent his time working on his sidecar
At British Aerospace, correct.
Fair play. That's a man who uses his fruit, that Chrissy.
And also, he was on the night shift, so
Even
you could
better.
get away with even more.
That's it. They must be walking by the other lads going, he's a busy lad. The welder's always going.
And he actually went on to become European champion
Right.
and finished 7th in the World Championship, doing everything himself as like a true privateer, doing everything the hard way. And, you know, I'd say at that time, mid-80s, sidecars were kind of like the number 2 class behind 500s. So, you know, it was proper. But I was born, he lost his sponsor and retired.
Right. That was a busy year.
Yeah, it was a busy year.
Lots of
Yeah,
busy years, oh my
yeah.
God.
Did you do solos as well? Or
No, just
the
sidecars. Yeah, just sidecars. I think it started, he didn't have enough money to buy a bike and go racing.
Right.
With sidecars, there's 2 people, you go halves, everything's halved.
Yeah.
And, you know, and they shared the passenger driver role, and he ended up being better at driving, so that's the way, you know, that's the way it went.
What do you know what got him into the like sidecar thing?
Just obsessed with bikes, obsessed with racing, just wanted to do it. And, you know, you look back then and you think, fair play, there's no internet to go on and find out how to do it. It must have been so hard to just suddenly go, right, do you know what, I'm going to go and race a sidecar. How do I go about that? How do you get your license? Where do you go? What clubs do you join?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 yeah.
You do take that for granted, don't
Yeah,
you?
you do,
It's
yeah.
mad that.
Yeah.
We all, our generation, we just abuse the internet for rude
what?
things. Oh, geez.
But when he stopped racing, because he sort of prepared his own outfit, engines, blah blah blah, he got people asking him to sort of start doing engine work and stuff. And when he got enough people, he started engine tuning. So he, I don't know, late 80s, 1990 maybe, he started FW Developments, engine tuning, 2-stroke engines. So for years, the majority of 125s and 250s, certainly in this country, and a lot of work worldwide, would have been my dad's engines. Yeah, so
Fair play. We like where we are now.
no, so we moved here in 1996. So no, we were a place down the road first. yeah, I mean, to get as big as we are now and have this sort of premises from day one would have been impressive. But no, he just started out of his, his double garage next to his house.
What was the competition like in the country for like engine tuning? You know, like you say, if he had the market, there must have been.
I don't know. You'd probably have to ask him. And there's not just one person tuning engines. There's always competition, and that's
just
good.
Not as good as your dad.
I'd just say I mean, don't quote me on this. He's probably one of the best two-stroke engine tuners in the world, and I raced myself, and I raced go-karts for many years. And I benefited from that because I always had the fastest car on track.
Did you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it must have been awkward, like, because obviously your competition would want your as good engines as you, but they would know that they're never ever going to get the best ones.
Yeah.
I've done the head wink.
I mean, a lot of my kart racing or my junior kart racing was done in. Like one make series and stuff like that, where everyone's engines were the same.
Yeah.
We did get caught out once. Done some clever engineering that wasn't deemed quite legal. So.
Flexing the rules. That's
Correct,
what it's about.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that blip.
The thing about karting though is it's you think like bike racing's close or whatever. If you go to a kart race, like say. Half a tenth is massive.
Massive. And if you can't do lap times within 2 tenths a lap the whole race, forget it.
And also the money in it's quite a lot more than bike racing as well. So if it's a one make series and you've got a part that's going to give you 0.1 of a horsepower, basically you can just write a check to like whatever you want.
Definitely.
The money in it.
I'd say that's how it is now. I was probably the last generation of when it was sensible.
Right.
And money didn't get you an advantage.
Yeah.
So it was about talent and preparation and effort.
I remember speaking to, it was another engine tuner actually, when I very first started racing, and we were talking about like sealed engines, and he was talking about kart, and he said you think it's fair, but he says what actually happens is the top teams and the top whatever, they'll buy like 20 engines, dyno them all, and like the wealthiest teams always still get the best engines. Yeah. It's just a long drawn out process. But.
So when were you first put in a kart then?
So, my racing career, I got a QR50, little Honda motocrosser 50.
All right.
Just before I turned 4.
Wow.
And my lad's like 4.5 now and can't even ride a push bike. But yeah, I was on a motorbike, and I spent all my time on it. Then I got a PW80, and then I know you've just had Birdie on the podcast. He actually, between him and my dad, they bought me a KX60.
They didn't hang about then, did
I know,
they?
yeah. This is where I would be like, I don't know, 8 by this time.
And doing like schoolboy motocross.
Well, no, so I never ended up racing it. That was the thing. So, in that time, we'd moved here, and what now is the lake used to be a field, so perfect for motocross. And I was just not that good. Just either going too slow, or when I was going fast, I was out of control and crashing it, and just never really had the feel and got the sort of the sweet spot for it. Then he ended up doing some work for a guy, and in lieu of payment, swapped to go-kart.
Right.
And so I razzed around the car park here and was like, this is it. This is it. I want to go racing. Fell in love with it straight away. So, right, okay, how'd you go racing? Right, we'll go to Three Sisters, do my licence. At the time, John McGuinness's younger brother Kurt, he'd started karting.
Right.
So we went.
We did not know.
Yeah.
So things you learned.
So can I just say, Kurt will be chuffed a bit to get a shout. He put a thing on Instagram the other day wearing a Chasin The Racin hat, and so big shout out to
good lad, Kurt. So,
you got any good stories about him? Yeah, come on.
Yeah. So we went with John to go and watch Kurt race, and I think like, you know, within a month or whatever, I was sat on the grid for my first race. And yeah, so yeah, we raced with Kurt for pretty much till he stopped, yeah.
So what was your dad's opinion on this then, you know, like with the motocross and everything like that? And he thought, was he a little bit gutted that you didn't go down the motorcycle route?
So I'd say firstly, he's never been that pushy to
He's not a
be like,
motocross dad.
you know, oh, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. It just let me do what I wanted to do. And for him, because he was so like busy at the time, a lot of customers, with a lot of customers and doing a technical job like engine tuning becomes a lot of problems, a lot of questions. I'd say it was very refreshing for him to go to a different paddock where no one really knew him.
Yes.
And he could just get on with something, because at the end of the day, racing should be fun and a hobby.
Yeah.
First and foremost. And then when you get better at it, that's when it becomes more serious and professional.
I could just see him standing on the top step and like, who's done your engine? And your dad's going, no idea. Don't you dare come near me.
And from a young age, was it, do you know, the whole engineering and tuning side? Were you drawn into that and like interested?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Yeah, probably at the time, not through choice, but the worst job you can do on a dyno is run an engine in, because it's
Just boring.
And it's cold, and it's just like half an hour of revving an engine. So naturally, as a kid, that was always my job. so yeah, from that point of view, yeah, it was a great education to get into.
In all fairness, I bet, you know, like the caliber of engines your dad was tuning, like over that time, I bet you got to run in some mega bits. Like by the time you were like 15, I bet you'd been on some pretty nice bits.
Yeah. It was more running the car engines in that was a pain. And like, you know, he'd finish one of my engines, he'd pass it me, he'd be like, right, go and run that in. So then I'd put it on the cart. And yeah, run it in and blah, 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 blah. And like, you know, I'd do all that myself at, I don't know, 13, 14. And I'll never forget the day that he gave me the wrong engine. And I actually ran an engine that was due to be rebuilt. So I'd gone through all this pain on the dyno, and I was like, oh, thank God that's over. And he's like, oh, I've got some bad news. Here's the engine you should have run in. That one's got to be rebuilt. And it's probably the worst day of my life.
What's the longest you've sat running an engine in one sitting? Do you do it all in one sitting? That's the next question. Is it literally one continuous cycle?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, generally, we give engines half an hour.
Right.
If a manufacturer says otherwise, we'll follow what the manufacturer says. So, like, the likes of your Honda Fireblade needs an hour.
Right.
We've seen the new Aprilia RS660 that needs 300 Ks running in. So that's like half a day.
Jesus, man, because it was the BMW like 500 miles.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to sit on a dyno for 500 miles.
Do you? Bollocks. It's like one gear at a time, isn't it?
Yeah, you're not learning anything. You're not looking at anything interesting. So,
Do you know,
that
actually,
actually,
going down the avenue of when you were kart racing and then you ended up doing kart engines, did that turn into a bit like as part of the business now, doing kart engines, or
No.
did you just sideline that?
yeah, just
boring.
kept it for me, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
fair enough.
I was thinking next time I'm running an engine, maybe I should listen to a podcast.
Hey,
There you
perfect.
go.
You'll fall asleep on the...
But yeah, going back to how DynoJet UK started and where we are now. So my dad, he grew his engine tuning business, and in the early 90s, he was probably one of the first people in the UK to get a DynoJet dyno, which kind of... Engine tuning at the time was probably more like a dark art, where, oh, so-and-so's done it, and, oh, yeah, you know, we'd give you a cylinder and like, that's a good one, yeah, look at this, that, the other. But at the end of the day, and what dynos are about is actually measuring it.
Yeah.
Measuring your performance, seeing what it's like. So when he got a dyno and, you know, started using it, his quality of work obviously went up and his results improved. And it, you know, instead of being your voodoo merchant, so, oh, that's a good one, it's like, no, that is good. Here's a dyno graph that shows how much power it's producing.
Yeah.
And we've tested and changed and made improvements on the dyno to produce a better motorbike.
Yeah.
And yeah, his business went from strength to strength. And then in around 2002, DynoJet were actually looking for a new distributor for the United Kingdom. So they approached us to take on DynoJet, and he decided to start a separate company. So now we have two companies here. So we have FW Development still tuning engines. We have DynoJet UK.
Fair play. I tell you what, this is perfect marketing for you, but I've not heard of any other dyno bar DynoJet.
It's because they're the best.
Fair play there. You are well sold that man. Well sold that man. But like, no, seriously, how many other equivalent? I've actually never heard of another dyno bar DynoJet.
Right now in the UK, roughly how many DynoJets is there?
Jesus,
good question. A few hundred.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right.
And are they all on the phone to you asking for support?
Yeah.
Never stop.
yeah. But that's part of our job. It's a
it's
a technical product, and we, we try and provide as good, good support, technical support, and I'd say that probably is a big part of what sets us apart from the competition.
Yeah.
Jesus,
I was speaking to Phil Crow, who's obviously my boss for this year, and he's obviously just recently got a new DynoJet, and he was saying how good the system is, the Teams thing, where
did he mention that he had my number on speed dial?
No, but in terms of like
FaceTime to Phil Crow. All right, Phil.
In terms of your service, like being able to go online with you.
Yeah. So we
help them.
Say if you buy a dyno, okay, you buy that off us. It's not a franchise sort of thing. You're an independent business, but we're here for the support, like we do, but also training as well. So we'll train you how to use the machine and basically like look after you every step. So yeah, Phil's just upgraded his dyno to the latest generation of electronics. That is a massive improvement, but with a massive improvement, and it is a huge leap forward, and you can do so much with it. It takes a lot of learning.
Yeah. He was saying how minute it is.
And he's a busy man, so he needs to get the job done. So instead of spending hours figuring stuff out, it's quite just get on the phone to Frank, and I'll jump on TeamViewer and be able to take over his computer and quickly sort his issues out.
Mm-hmm.
That's all, and that technology's only just come out. The fact that you can
take over someone's computer.
Well, yeah, on the DynoJet element, that is incredible. That, Mike.
Well, it's a win. It's just a computer thing. So you can take over someone's computer if you want.
That's perfect. Teach me how, because I could turn down detune some bikes, couldn't I? For the competition.
I mean, I've been on TeamViewer with people needing help with mapping. Not to name drop, but I was once...
Go on, name drop. Get him in there.
I was once... Michael Dunlop rings me and he's like, struggling with his Motec or wanting something changing like that. And he managed to get... I don't even know what race he was at, somewhere in Ireland. So he's in the middle of a field somewhere. Manages to get internet connection on his computer. I took over. I'm making all the changes. He's just stood there with his laptop. People are like walking by going, bloody hell, Dunlop knows what he's doing on that. Oh, wow, he does his own mapping. Like, oh, God, flipping heck. He's an impressive guy and all that. And it was me here. So he'd just be lapping it up, actually pretending to move the mouse.
There's people coming up for an autograph. I'm busy.
Yeah.
Flat out.
Just making some changes here. Yeah.
Another big part of a part of the business and a part of the job is that you're the dyno supplier for BSB. So over the race weekend, service for anyone in the paddock, but also in terms of the scrutiny and the technical regulations.
That's right. Yeah. So when we started DynoJet UK, one thing we wanted to do to push the brand and again provide the support for our products, power commanders, quick shifters, that sort of thing. We built a dyno into a truck, and that truck is still going strong. And that was 2002 when we did that, or whatever, 2002, 2003. And we support British Superbikes, so we go to every round, and also the TT. So we're at the TT for the full 2 weeks, and it's a funny situation to be in because you like, sooner or later you will dyno every single bike in that paddock. So the amount of data and knowledge that's kind of on the computers and up here is unreal, really.
I bet everyone, because obviously you're the one person that knows all the figures and like has every like all the questions that people want to know.
Yeah.
I bet you get absolutely. I bet you can't even go for a drink in the bar. Everyone's just.
I'll try.
Everyone's hounding you for.
Have you ever let it like the truth slip? You know, like someone's at the bar going like that. Well, he's on a faster bike, and you've just stuck your head in the middle, going, actually, you have a quicker bike than him. So what you playing at?
Yeah, all the time. All the time.
I'm definitely staying away from you at the bar. But
no, I don't know. I just feel like, so, it is an annoying aspect of the job where, like, and probably an annoying thing about racing is when people start to think like other people have got an unfair advantage when they haven't. And it's like, right, stop, concentrate on what you're doing, and your results will improve. Don't think you're at a disadvantage because you're not cheating, or someone's got 10 horsepower more, or so-and-so's up to this, or so-and-so's up to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably do put people straight quite a bit and just say, look, especially with dads, it's like, look, there's nothing wrong with your bike, it's your lad.
It's not what they want to hear.
Imagine saying, there's your invoice.
Yeah.
Off you go.
Bike's good. Maybe a bit of rider coaching will go on this.
No, one thing that we've kind of been touching on a little bit, and to be fair, some of these questions that I can ask on this podcast, you might just say like, oh, like it's confidential and I can't. But one big question that we've been talking about is the new Aprilia 660s like being added into the Super Twin class. Obviously, we haven't had any of the international road racing like since it's been eligible for the class, so there's a big question mark, lots of excitement about it, and I know that you work on some of the best of the competition, and also you've been working on developing the Aprilia. How do you think it's going to sort of fare in Super Twin class this year?
Yeah, I'd say it's been quite a hot topic for that class, and when you look at the bike, it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it's weird because all the other bikes, you're taking a 60, 70 at best horsepower bike and trying to produce 100 plus, which takes a lot of work. So when a bike comes out that's already high 90s, you think, oh, that's it, game over. It's at the start of its development. Is there much development to be done? We don't know yet. So,
because how long's the bike been out on the market now?
It's actually it's over a year. Isn't
over
it?
a year, but people. I don't know, because maybe the TT's not been on.
Yeah.
It only seems like this winter people have jumped onto it.
Seems to be that weird. Because we were having a quick chat and you actually haven't had many through. You've had them on the dyno, but you actually haven't had any on the block, shall we say?
No.
That actually get tuned.
Yeah, so we've got one that we do now for Lee Johnston that we're that we're looking to develop, and it's actually just sat there waiting for me to give it a run because it's just had to have its 300k. But to be fair, I taught Lee how to use a dyno, so he's done most of that.
Right?
Yeah.
Really?
Like I say, it's the world's most boring job, so I let him do it.
No, it's good to see that, right? Like, like Michael getting in, like actually getting it on the laptop, and like Lee Johnson getting on the laptop and like getting stuck in. It's pretty intimidating. I better come to one of your courses. Better learn how to do it.
I don't think you'll be able to answer this one because of things. But
what's the figure?
I was going to say.
Go on.
I was going to say, I bet you've over the years, I bet you've seen some right sort of cowboys and like people who've like done the own tune and that, and it's just become I guess you
it's more funny than anything though, and it's like I'm always fair and we'll give honest feedback, and at the end of the day, what happens in the dyno room happens on track. So if someone brings a bike that is down on power, he's already going to know it's down on power because it doesn't perform very well.
Yeah.
So you're not like breaking someone's heart by saying, oh look, that bike you've been riding, it's not as good as you thought it was, because
they know.
They already know. Yeah.
And in terms of I know a few superbike teams have been based here. I don't know if they're still based here, but I know in the past you've had various BSB teams based here, and I guess you've kind of been working, prepping, like over the years you'll have done loads of superbikes.
Yeah.
In terms of the development of the class, I don't really know where I'm going with this question. But yeah, like are you currently working on many superbikes?
Yes. Yeah. So going back to the teams that we've had based here. So when we moved to where we are now, Obviously, you've been for a bit of a look round tonight. It's
Quick swim.
quick swim, yeah. It's a pretty good facility.
Yeah.
And for a race team, it is actually perfect because, a race team that we're working with, so they're on site with the people that tune their engines, do the dyno work, do the mapping. You've got a lovely workshop, place to park your truck, etc. So we have had a lot of race teams based here over the years. Currently, we don't have any race team work out of here. The last race team that we did have was Bournemouth Kawasaki, and when they stopped doing BSB, obviously they moved out.
You couldn't nearly get any further away from Bournemouth all the way up here. That's a hell of a trip.
Yeah, it's funny. We were we went to the pub one night and some people walked past because we'd gone in the team van or whatever.
Yeah.
And some people walked past and they were like, "Oh, flipping out, they're a long way from home." And I thought, you're obviously into your bikes, but you've got no idea that they're actually based a couple of miles up the road.
Good for security, mind, because they'll all be going around there trying to rob them, and it's actually up here. That's ideal.
You mentioned just before about having close connections with Birdie and obviously we've had Birdie on before, so we were sort of talking about the earlier days, and say when he was going to World Superbikes and you were doing the engines there and whatever. But since going to Ducati, them engines come already tuned, don't they?
Yeah, so basically when Birdie decided to go set up his own race team.
26. Was he 26? No, he packed in racing at 26.
No,
He was 26, wasn't he?
I don't know.
Yeah,
how old does he say he is now? Let's work it out.
Yeah, just do the maths on that side of things. But
do you mean when he first went to Superbikes?
No. When he first started Paul Bird Motorsport,
I think it was 96 or something.
Yeah. So I think one of the first riders he started sponsoring was Chris Palmer. And then I think the year after he was like, right, okay, let's start a race team. Wanted my dad to do the engines. Came to my dad for a lot of advice, and they became best friends. And so it was amazing, kind of growing up with that. And people say X, Y, and Z about Birdie, but he is a genuinely nice guy. And I'll never forget. I was probably 9-year-old, and he drove down in his Honda NSX, which was just blew my mind because at the time, wow, this must be the best sports car in the world. And he drove down from Penrith an hour to come down here, pick me up and take me up to Carlisle to watch Carlisle play Preston North End in the FA Cup, in his director's box or whatever, just me and him. Then drove all the way home, dropped me off, best day of my life. And, you don't forget things like that. And
no.
The amount of riders and people that he's helped over the years and what he's given to the sport is amazing. So when he started, he based his race team here, and it was only when he got the factory Kawasaki deal and they went World Superbike that they built the warehouse and the workshops that you see now. And basically they outgrew us because when they became the official Kawasaki World Superbike team, there was just too many people here, and it was pretty chaotic. And but when they moved out, we still worked really closely together. So through the Kawasaki era, the championships with Shaky and stuff, we did all the engines, dyno work, blah, 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 blah. Only when they went Ducati, we kind of weren't really needed because it's ready to go from Ducati. So
is that the case? Right,
yeah.
I did not know that. So pretty much, no. It's
the engines are, yeah. So you just get an engine, right, bolt it in, and away you go. Yeah, pay your money.
Right, there we go. I thought road bikes as normal. They get them because I know he spent a lot of. He gave us a figure, didn't he, on the show? I can't mind on the figure, but each engine was worth.
Yeah, I think it's like €30,000 or something like that.
Each engine, Jesus.
And they'll have 18 sat in the workshop.
My God, there you go. How many staff work here then?
Here?
Yeah.
So we're a very sort of streamlined team. So my mum and dad are kind of semi-retired now, so he picks and chooses what he wants to do.
Yes.
But day-to-day work and day-to-day running, he doesn't really get involved. There's me and my wife, Zara, but we've got 2 young kids, so time's a bit split for Zara there as well.
Yeah.
Then we have 2 people in the office on sales and etc.
Yeah.
And then sort of on the technical side, there's myself and Richard, who works for us, who you'll have seen at various events. And on the engine tuning side, we have Ian, our engine builder. So not many.
That is incredible. No, it is, because when you think about that, like the amount of engines
we get through a lot of work. Yeah.
Jesus wept, that is impressive. I was expecting a lot, like, to be blunt, a lot more people in.
But it's the sort of job where you need to really trust who's doing the work, and it's not, you can't just throw men at it, and it take years to train someone, and it gets to a point where it's just like, it's just easier doing it ourselves. And like our engine tuning business, again, not saying that we really pick and choose that much, but we do sort of just focus on your likes of your super sport class, your super bike class, and have good teams that we work with, that keeps us busy enough that we're not stretching ourselves.
Yes.
And is less aggro because you're working together.
Yes, understandable, because it's one of those, because like when you see anywhere like a bike for sale, for example, like a race bike, and it's like the Frank Wrathall like FW name attached to it is a selling point massively. It's designer almost, shall we say? It's like, bloody hell, that must be quick.
Do you know?
It is.
Do you know, in terms of like the phase out from 2-strokes to 4-strokes, did that tie in with your dad kind of not doing less work and sort of semi-retiring, and you taking over?
No. So it was before.
So were you shit out of tuning 2-strokes as well?
No, sorry. No, it happened before I really came into the business that much.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was early 2000s.
So do you not really do much with or haven't done too much with 2-strokes? Is it more mapping and like the...
Yeah, more give me a fuel injected 4-stroke. That's
bread and butter.
That's what what I do and what I need to do.
Yeah.
However, I do like 2-strokes, and my dad still does do a little bit of 2-stroke work on the sly.
I was about to ask that, because at the end of the day, like if you speak to anyone, 2-stroke era racing was just the be all and end all, and it's like the black art system of it, and it's getting your eye in and everything like that. So how gutted was he when the 4-stroke era started arriving?
He wasn't. He wasn't
good.
He's always moved with the times.
Yes.
Adapted, and grown. So he wasn't just right. Okay. No worries, 2-strokes are dead. We're 4-stroke engine tuners now, so
there we are.
Yeah, changed. And we had a couple of staff changes and stuff like that over the sort of transition years, should we say? And we're in a good place now. But it's a shame, because 2-strokes are coming back. Like, well,
That's what you tell us. Coming back.
Well, no, sorry, I don't mean like coming back as in they're going to start making them, but people want to restore old bikes.
Yes,
it's booming. 2-strokes are like, what people want.
Yeah.
And even racing, people want to go race a 98 TZ 250 or whatever. So, he'll hate me saying this, because people still ring up for 2-stroke work, and he only wants to do it for select people.
Right.
Because it's not worth the aggro. Because if something goes wrong, it's your fault, and blah, 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 blah. But you could make a good living from just doing 2-strokes still. But you need that knowledge and that experience. And without living through it, I don't know where you'll pick that up from. So
such a limited number of people.
So
like
there is...
Like a box of jets just rolling around on the van floor.
Yeah.
Your dad will be coming out of retirement.
So, people say like, oh, you're not gutted that, like, your dad hasn't taught, not like, not that he's not taught you, but you've not learned from him that how you can do it. And I'm like, well... No, because it's different, and you need to have lived through it and learnt yourself through it. A lot of people do, put cylinder head porting, do it on a flow bench, rely on the results from a flow bench. He doesn't. It's all up here.
That's proper, that is proper.
Do you know, just going back to the sort of super bikes and like horsepower figures and stuff, do you know, for example, in the last 10 years, or since 2012 till now, max power of British super bikes, has it increased much? Has it been
massively? So really? Jobs changed, and I'd say and I hate this term, game changer, was when BMW brought the S1000 RR out for the first time. because that was a hike in power over everything else.
Was that in stock trim? This is
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
And then that's forced everyone else.
And that's forced everyone else. So, whereas 200 horsepower was like the holy grail.
Yes.
But you know what? It's 190. That's enough. Blah blah blah. 220 is normal now.
On
Jesus.
a
Super bike.
yeah.
But you get a Honda Fireblade out of the box, run it, put an Acroprovic system on it, run it in. It's between 210 and 215 horsepower.
Jesus wept.
Before you do any work.
Before you do any work on it.
Wow. Is the Honda the highest stocker?
Yes.
It's got to be now, isn't it?
Yeah, out of all the top bikes, so between 210, 215, that must be like one of the highest.
Yeah, so when there is an art to measuring the power. So it's not straightforward because we're on a chassis dyno, so we actually put the whole bike on.
Yeah.
We're measuring the power out the back wheel through the tyre. So your compound of your tyre actually has an effect on your reading because the way that tyre interacts with the drum can affect your reading. So like a race tyre or a slick could read like, say, 10 horsepower less than than a road tyre.
Because I was about to say, because for a lot of our listeners, have never probably even seen a dyno or anything like that. See, a lot of teams turn up with another wheel with a proper hard, horrible road tyre on it just for that reason.
For that reason, yeah, you're not inflating your figures. You just want a true figure.
Yes.
And a consistent figure. So if you're making changes, say, someone came one day, went off, made a load of technical changes to the bike, wanted to see if it was any better, brought it back the next day with a different tyre on, forget your data. It's out the window.
So what's the difference? Is it a consistent figure between crank to tyre?
No.
No, so it's literally, that reading's not like, so... say a knock 10 break off for the crank that it's literally that varies.
People do that or whatever, but the only way of doing it would be measure it. But even then, you've still got your tyre sticking to the drum that causes problems both on negative horsepower and positive horsepower. I don't want to get too tired.
I was about to say, because these questions must keep you up, and it's the fact of even humidity in the air can change the results.
Yeah, so the dyno has a weather station. So we look at humidity, air pressure, air temperature, and then based on that, apply a correction factor so that technically you can run a bike in winter, freezing cold day, lots of oxygen in the air, and then in summer, hot, humid day, and they should be comparable. That's a theory, but in the real world, it doesn't work. So you become a bit of a weatherman doing this job. It's like, right, good dyno day.
Yeah.
Bad dyno day. And... you can even get to the stage where when the harder you push an engine and develop a bike, you're into diminishing returns. So your first 5-10 horsepower is cheap, easy. Everyone can get there.
Yeah.
Your next 5 horsepower that does make the difference is a slog. And when you're looking for your last half a horsepower, you can get to one day and go, do you know what? We'll just abandon this. We'll come back when the weather's better.
Yeah, just and the amount of variables that you have to chuck.
But when you think about it, it's obvious. If there's more oxygen in the air, more oxygen going into your engine, you get a bigger explosion and you produce more power.
Yeah.
So in terms of the most common thing you'll be doing, if someone came here on a random day, are you most likely to be sat on a dyno changing fuel and to try and get more power out of motorbikes? Is that
Yeah. Again, it's a really interesting job. It varies. Your bread and butter, if you will, is sorting the fueling out, because if the right amount of fuel is going into the engine for given RPM throttle position, that's going to optimize it, make it the best it can. And when a bike isn't like that, that's where it's not running very nice. So whether that be a road bike that is snatchy on the throttle, hard to ride round town, or is a bit slow, or a race bike that isn't performing as it should be, or the rider doesn't have the feel on the throttle. However, going back to how power figures have changed in the past 10 years, the biggest issue is grip hasn't really changed. So, you've got 20 more horsepower, but laying that on the ground has now become incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And in a series like British Superbikes, you're on a controlled electronics package, so you're on a Motec ECU, and within that, there isn't traction control or anti-wheelie strategies. So when you've got a bike that's an animal, having someone very good to map it and calm it down is massively important. So
it's incredible, isn't it?
Like I say, bread and butter, feeling just making bikes perform at their optimum. Making them more economical, blah blah blah. When you come to a 220 horsepower plus super bike which you're going to know very well, the connection between the rider's wrist and what's going on at the back tyre is the most important thing. And if that isn't right, then either you're going to be spinning up or you're just not going to be fast.
No.
I remember from that short spell that I did in Superbikes with Martin Halsell's team, I remember the first time I rode, or the first 1 or 2 times I rode that, I could not get any power down without it wheeling. And I remember the Italians came over here and spent a couple of days, and it was actually like taking loads and loads of power out of like first and second gear actually allowed us to accelerate much better, much faster, because there was just literally like you just touch the throttle and it went up.
Did you ride it at Knockhill?
Yes.
Yeah, so was it Knockhill where you were struggling?
That was my first ever go on a superbike.
Right.
Yeah. Like say coming out of the hairpin, it like just a little bit of throttle and wheelie, and it was like almost impossible to accelerate hard without it wheeling. Yeah. And then I remember I think Alessandro came over and spent like 2 days with you or whatever and got it like absolutely mint. But yeah, it sounds counterintuitive to take power out to go faster.
But again, it comes down to your experience, and we see a lot of stuff, and I'd be able to analyze a bike and say where it would be difficult to ride, or where its issues will be, and if you can sort it. A lot of bikes now have got electronically controlled throttles. That's just a dream, because if you can map a throttle map on a bike, you can essentially like put in a characteristic of the bike that would previously be impossible. So taking power out and stuff like that, just don't open the throttle, because you as a rider, you want to get to a wide open throttle as soon as possible, because that's what goes forward. That's how you go fast.
Is that ETV chart, engine throttle valves?
Whatever you want to call it, fly by wire, ride by wire. ETV.
You see, it's one of those. It's like it's always going to be that argument forever and ever and ever. And I know car technology's had that for a long, long time, but it's almost taken the rider ability a little bit more out of it. Is that a fair comment to say, in your opinion? Because like that technical,
no, not really.
Right?
No.
Because being able to come in and it's interesting, because it's so much more. The bike's more meeting up with the rider now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you need that balance all the time.
But I'd say it's always been like that.
Right.
Even
with the two-stroke eras kind of thing. Right.
Yeah. If your bike didn't handle, the rider didn't make up for it.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? So
but was that more chassis or like more characteristics?
Yeah, I'd say. Probably more chassis. But okay. So now you've got another element into it.
Yeah.
Your electronics and your engine.
Yes.
Because of that much more power.
Yeah.
So
because like you were saying, it's mad how you can go up to like figures like nearly 240 brake horsepower, but then essentially it's like it's too much, isn't it?
It is too much.
I know, like what we just said, you can't compare like for like different days and all that sort of thing. But I'm not sure if you can answer this one. But after a competitive track session at BSB over all of the years, what's the highest power reading you've ever seen come off the track?
I think the highest we ever saw, I think, would be at the TT, and I can't remember what year, but it was when Michael was on. He won the senior on a BM.
Right,
and that was the highest figure you've ever seen.
Probably say so, yeah. In race trim, at BSB, we don't dyno the superbikes as much as other classes because the rules are that bit more open, and they're on a control ECU, so you've got the lads from Motec there that can plug in and kind of
do the.
But yeah, so like if we're there to like help police the classes and help with scrutineering and things that we'd be looking for in say a stock class would be your power and your power curve, so we can see if it's been instantly someone's cheating basically.
Yeah.
And
out of curiosity on that side of things, so you get a bike wheeling up the ramp into yours and everything like that. So what is the situation for that? Do you wouldn't obviously tell the rider or anything like that, or do you have to go and tell that information to the organisers, or how does it work?
The information technically belongs to the organisers. So
right,
yeah, it's quite easy because people are used to us doing it and being there because we've done it for so long that it is part and parcel of being in that championship. Right, okay, I've finished in the top 6. Right, I'll go straight to the dyno. You know, because like when you think about it, it's quite a weird thing to hand your pride and joy over just to some random guy who's gonna take it to the rev limiter and you know
the hurt locker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so but you know it's part of the rules.
Yeah,
and people get used to it. So you know, very you know, the pretty much everyone's happy to do it, and you get to know people.
Could you say roughly what that figure was, or can you not?
About 230, I think.
Wow.
On the BM at that time.
High 220s, I'm pretty sure.
Jesus wept.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And I'd say,
have you ever had a World Tour bike or MotoGP bike on?
No.
Right.
No.
That's it.
I'd like to.
So what like dynos do they use it like MotoGP?
I don't think they do.
Right. It is what it is. If you want to put the power down, you put the power down, son.
Yeah, I mean they'll have strict technical checks and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as chucking on the dyno and seeing what it is, but like, what should it be?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. What should it be? Like if you put a super bike on and it's 250 horsepower, it'd be like, well, that's good, but hang on, have they just done a really, really good job of tuning it?
It'd be good to see though, wouldn't it? Just see it flash up.
Interesting to get, especially World Superbikes on, because obviously they are a fair bit more tuned than say BSB. So you'd expect, like, if BSB's sort of around 230 max,
it's always been a shame because if we didn't do the TT, because there's always the Donington round that clashes with the TT, and pretty much every year, Scott Smart gets on the phone. Please, can you come to Donington? and he'd be like, oh, that'd be really interesting, but no, not the TT, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've not done it.
Now, am I correct? The only class like you don't do at the TT is Super Sport and Superbike. I'm trying to think which one. No, because it's like Super Stock.
Sidecars.
Yeah, sidecars definitely don't get rolled up there. Jesus, well, no, but no, like you have to, like at the TT, they say you have to get your bike.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, previously it's been Previously, it's been like every Super Twin bike has to come and get checked.
Yes.
1 year we did every Super Twin, every Super Sport, and every Super Stock.
Yes.
And bearing in mind, a lot of people ride the stock or in the super bike. It's basically every bike there.
Yeah.
And it was too much, and that became apparent. And we've sort of changed it now to kind of like pick and just cherry pick bikes and get them checked. But then after the race, we do say the top 6.
Yes.
The ones that really matter. And on the odd occasion, if something rings any alarm bells,
like a massive speed trap figure.
Yeah, which we did have, and it was a funny story, really.
Yeah, go on.
Share.
So, like, we do a lot of checks and stuff like that. And at BSB, like, okay, yeah, another ZX6, an R6, right? Yeah, 120, right? Yeah. It's not boring, but it's not that exciting when they're all legal. So,
your job is to check it, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And say at BSB, just us being there and doing that process stops people doing something.
It's a deterrent, isn't it?
It's a deterrent, yeah. However, this one, I thought, flipping heck, he's quick through the speed traps there. That 2015 or 16 maybe, and it was Adrian Gorst was the scrutineer at the TT at the time, and Adrian came over. He said, "Right, we'll do top 6, so it's these numbers here." Yes, Andy's like, "Oh, and this one." Looks at well, why are we bothering with that? Why are we dynoing that one? So, it seemed a bit quick through the speed traps. I went, oh yeah. I said, do you know what? I saw that as well. He went, yeah, it's a GSXR 600. I mean, so you know what's happening now. It's obvious, isn't it? But it's a GSXR 600. I mean, and then he laughed. He went, at least it's not a 750. It wasn't that quick. And I went, all right, yeah, sound. He said they might have just done a really good job, but it needs checking.
Can I just say before you say this, I'm pretty sure I can't remember who the rider was, but I'm pretty sure we've had him on the show. And
possibly.
I think he told this story.
Did he? Yeah. So. And he's a good lad as well, and he didn't know.
Yeah.
So So I'm looking for, right, okay, GSXR 600 should be about, if it's mid 120s, they've done a good job out of it because it is one of the lower powered super sport bikes. First run, I mean, like, the oil's not even hot. It's just like, you've got to give a few runs to get them up to power. First run's just 150 horsepower. And like,
Jesus,
I think I've done the top 6 already. And like, you go through the gears and like with TT gearing on, it's like, what? This thing got on, I'm like, what? I thought, wow, this has got some go. So the next run I'd done, it's like 152 horsepower. I stopped. I went, I said to Adrian, I said,
it's legit.
I said, you said at least it's not a 750. He's like,
it's a 900.
Yeah. I went, it's a tuned 750. And it was a fully tuned 750.
Jesus wept. I tell you what, this is Matt now.
I don't remember who that was. I can't think.
I've got the name in my head, but I'm not saying it on live.
I don't think we had a chat on air. Off air, I think he told us about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he tells that.
But I tell you what's in like, is this? Am I correct in saying? Well, they haven't released the regs on the 600s yet for the TT.
No.
So,
well, do you want to know what they are?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah. Well, what's the crack
in terms of what?
Well, it's a bit like because P. Hickman was saying they were running the 765s.
Yeah, so that'll be allowed in at the TT.
So that is now the good thing is this pod's not out anyway. A couple of weeks away, so hopefully. But
they're literally finalising the rules now. So your rev limits and stuff like that. And
the big question for Dom is: are they going to be running a 600 or 636, or will 636s be eligible?
Good question. Can't remember.
You see, that's the thing.
They are at World Championship, but
that's it because isn't a 765 like 100 acclaimed? I've never seen one on the dyno myself, but like 150 brake. But Jesus wept, there won't be a bike that you haven't seen. There you go. But like 150 brake horsepower, and then
Again, this is going back to an annoying thing about racing and stuff like that.
Yes.
Rumours go around, or no one's going to be able to compete with Hickman. There might not be anyway because he's absolutely unbelievable around the TT.
But there we are.
But he isn't going to have a massive advantage for being on a 765 Triumph. So
yeah,
I was quite involved in balancing the regs.
Yeah.
So Scott Smart's God, he's in control.
Right.
So he's the head of he's the FIM technical guy. And talking of teams that we've had based here, Scott used to actually run his bike when he ran himself. He used to run out of these workshops. So
there we are.
Yeah, so he used to live in this car park for a bit.
There we are. For not many people knowing, it's a case of like the TT is singular.
Yes,
they can they can pick what rules they want to do, so they can go down FIM World or they can go down like BSB rules, or they can essentially do anything they want. So it's a bit
it's an event on its own with its own set of rules,
yes.
But obviously that's got to be a sensible set of rules that does somewhat follow the standard set by other race series. The two being British Superbikes and World Superbikes.
Yeah.
So it's a funny time when it comes to Super Sport class at the minute because they've kind of been between a rock and a hard place with what to do with what bikes they let in because the 600 sports bikes aren't selling them, manufacturers aren't making them. So they've gone down the path of basically opening up the regs.
Yeah.
So if you're a bike manufacturer, it doesn't really matter if it's 600, what cc it is. If you can produce a bike that produces over 140 horsepower, and say if you need to make a kit to get it up there, produce that kit, and then electronically we'll control that to fit into the regulations. So it has to have an electronic throttle on it and has to run a certain ECU. And then what will happen is the throttle will be restricted accordingly to make the bike same as the rest.
Right, because I'm going on Fran Counten's 600, and that's it's not a fly-by-wire throttle,
No.
So that'll still be eligible. That's correct.
Yeah, so
it's at a disadvantage.
So you've got your two sets of regs now. So your normal 600 Super Sport regulations and what they're calling the next gen Super Sport. So your next gen Super Sport, at a minute, I'm pretty sure at the TT you're only going to have the Triumph 765. But there's the Ducati V2.
I was about to ask because they're going to let now. What's the Ducati on CC on paper? 7 The 800 or
959.
There we
Yeah,
go.
no, exactly.
Okay, but right. There you go. So, right, bloody hell, this is the right kind
So
of worms.
you put a tri-options Ducati bike on the dyno at the track, and it's 152.
Yeah.
Is a good one. The benchmark in British Supersport would be your Appleyard Macadam bikes.
Yeah.
Who we actually do all their engine work and have done for years. And that's also another race team that was based here for quite a while. And their bikes are 140 horsepower. So what we did at the start of last year at the BSB tests, because everything was unknown, it's, we got like the Appleyard bikes on, a couple of other R6s, Jack Kennedy's 636, one of the Gearlink ZX6s, measured them all as accurately as possible, and then we put the Triumph on with a 1-to-1 throttle, so just wide open throttle throughout the rev range. And then I basically just reduced the throttle here, there, blah, 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 to manipulate what they had.
Yeah.
To make it level with.
Yeah. So never at any point was it 150 horsepower, even unrestricted.
Right.
And then now it's restricted, so it's 140, 141 horsepower.
So what's going to be interesting at the TT is the bike going to have to go on the dyno before practice? Like, not.
I don't know how they're going to do it because, technically it shouldn't really need to, because that throttle, your mapping in the World Supersport ECU is locked down, so you can't access it.
Right, so you'd have to buy that wiring loom regardless.
Yes, so you have to run on that. So you can't. Say you couldn't go now.
And buy a 636.
Buy a 765 street triple, turn it into a race bike, rock up at the TT. What? Because to fit in within the rules, it has to have a certain kit on it, certain electronics on it. Everything's controlled.
Doesn't that work like low double? Because they're going to have to almost pre-police the bikes. Is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a bit like you were saying, it's normally in an old-fashioned, it was like the top 6 or anything outstanding kind of thing. So, bloody hell, they're going to have to police it prior, in theory, to make it fair throughout the whole grid.
Yeah, but like I say, it's not a worry.
There's only one Frank Wrathall Jr.
But it's not a worry now, because as far as I'm aware, there's probably only going to be Hickman on one.
Right.
Have you ever counted how many championships you've won altogether, by the way? Like engine, the customers that have won championships.
Yeah, good question. No.
So there'll be like a ridiculous amount in like
BSB
and Supersport.
I mean, in recent times, so we've won the British Supersport, British Superbike Championship with when Birdie ran the Ducatis the first time round, so with Hislop and Shaky, and then with the Kawasaki, I think Shaky won it 2 or 3 times, and then with Leon Haslam, last time he raced in British Superbikes. That's when Bournemouth were based out of here, and we did a lot of work with them. In British Supersport, I think Appleyard's maybe won 4 in a row.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So those 4, but even sort of bikes that we haven't done the engine for, we could have some sort of input. It's like I did quite a bit of work with Dave Tyson on Jack Kennedy's bike last year. We didn't do their engines, but the bike came here and went through the mapping and stuff like that. And so I don't know. You could count that one.
It's weird with the 636 and the 600, because on paper, I think, like, say, if you look, you would know, but if you looked at the dyno figures, presumably they would be quite similar. But on the watching from the sidelines, it looked like the 600 looked like noticeably faster.
Well, the R6.
Yeah, it was a better bike.
No, this like say Ben Curry on the Kawasaki 600 and Jack Kennedy on the 636.
See, a lot as well is about how it makes the power, how it hangs on to the power. The biggest thing between those 2 bikes is that the 636 is restricted on RPM, so it's 500 RPM less, and that RPM you can see on track.
Right.
So if the 636 could rev to 16,000, not 15.5, it would be a little bit quicker and more comparable to the 600.
Because it seemed to struggle out the exit of the turns. You know what I mean? Jack, he was rattling the chassis. When you watched him, he was just trying to get that exit torque out the turn. Like, once he got the gallop on the straights, I don't think he was anything less, just as strong even. But it was like corner exit. He struggled. And this is Jack Kennedy we're talking about. The bike seemed
but
lacking.
you've got to ask yourself, a corner exit there, is it a wide open throttle? Probably not. so he's probably got the power under it, maybe just a bit of grip or whatever on the day. So, I don't know.
So many variables.
So many variables.
Oh, especially in your game, Jesus.
Yeah, so many variables.
So, looking ahead into the season, are you obviously you're not working directly with any teams this year? Who's your sort of who's your firm favourite for the championship superbikes?
Yep.
And who's your outside pick?
You're going to upset someone. Brilliant.
Look, hands down, you've got to say the Yamaha is going to be hard to beat because that's the benchmark. It looked the best bike last year.
There's another two of them this year as well, isn't there?
Yeah, but I'd still think it'd be the Raceways bikes that'd be the ones to beat.
Because they took a big leap, haven't they? Really. Wait, is that not a fair comment? Like last year, they turned up and it was just like, gee, it was up practically the same as a Ducati.
Yeah.
Really, down the straight, it was like, bloody hell.
Yeah, so, but I'd say handling-wise and the way it looked after its tyres, it'd be its biggest strength.
Right.
And you could sort of see the way that they could go into the corners and stuff like that. It was dialed in. So going back to what we said previous about no new models coming out, what's going to change for this year? So probably mechanically not that much.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the bike to beat.
Yes.
But what we have got is Sykes coming back, and we've got Haslam coming back. So
you had to put a tenner on it. Go on.
I'll say I think the title will go back to PBM,
Right.
possibly Brooks.
Right.
If they can get all their issues ironed out, I think it's one of those championships that any rider can win on the day, but pure championship winners need to do it week in, week out.
Yeah. Consistency.
And that's what Brooks has kind of always had, apart from last year.
I was about to say, because last year it just wasn't Brooks, was it?
No, but they're putting the effort into sorting that out.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant.
And hopefully they do, because it's not, when you see a rider like that not, going as well as he should be going.
Yeah.
It's kind of frustrating. You want to see a fair fight with everyone on the top of the game.
I'm definitely looking forward. Like I said, looking forward to the whole championship. Looking forward to seeing how Sykesy adapts. He's never been on the Ducati and back to BSB as well. Haslam, it'll be mega.
I'd say Haslam's going to go straight to the front.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Super Sport.
Kennedy's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah, back on an R6.
I'd like Piri to win.
Right? Well, he's a local lad, isn't he?
Yeah.
On the Appleyard bike.
Yeah. And I think he can.
Mm-hmm. And I tell you what, Chrissy's normal favourite question here, your outside bet.
For which one? Superbike.
Who's going to be the shocker?
Well, I need to say someone who's not obvious. And
yeah, go for someone.
Bridewell.
That's what you.
That's that you actually went like, how?
Yeah, I'd say you got your two Yamahas, your two PBM Ducatis.
Yeah,
and you've got Haslam, and I think guaranteed they'll be at the front.
Yes.
Then, depending on the round, you've got 20 other riders.
Yeah, but like you say, remember Bridewell at that Alton Park meeting?
Yeah, it was unreal. Yeah,
it was just like
he was taking like seconds a lap out of everyone.
He just from lap one he gapped, and you think, where the fuck?
Yeah,
that was like if you had to say one performance for one race all season.
I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
It made everyone look slow.
I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, because from like
just like he just like hang on, what?
Like from second to 10th was all like swished together, and then he just left.
It was like the rest were even on superbikes, but he did it from getting off the line till the last lap. And it was just every lap, just like, what's got into him?
It was incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible, yeah. Yeah.
I tell you, like, do you think Hickman's stoppable on the TT? Because Michael's going back on that Ducati.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, let's go through like favourites for the big bike race, and then 600s and super light.
You've got to say Hickman's the favourite.
Yeah,
just like
it's almost like a water off a duck's back, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see Michael on the.
It will be
on the Ducati.
I'm really looking forward to it.
That thing will be fast. There.
It will be fast.
We're speaking to the perfect person about that.
Yeah, it will be fast. Yeah. So I literally on Thursday just gone. They came down with the Ducati, and we spent like 10 hours on the dyno.
Jesus.
So, like I say, going to put in the work in for getting Josh back to the front and stuff like that, they're definitely doing it.
Yeah.
And then also that's, it's not just for Josh, but for all the riders, and getting an understanding of that bike and how to get the best out of it. However, TT is a totally different place to anywhere, and you'll only find out at the TT.
Yeah.
There won't be any indication. The Northwest won't give you an indication. I think he'll do well at the Northwest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like we talk about a fair bit. It's like Sealy, like you say it all the time. Well, not all the time, but every time it's brought up, you rightly said the smallest rider on the fastest bike, and that didn't seem to work. But if anyone's going to grab it by the horns and go for it, it is Dunlop, isn't it?
Proper looking forward. To be honest, if the sport kind of needs big changes, so that's talking points going into it. If everyone was lined up on exactly the same bike, same teams and stuff, it starts to get a bit predictable. So like things like that move is like perfect because like
I'm really looking forward to see how it goes. Like, on paper, right, it's massive power. We know that, but massive power, say electronically, you need to control that. Massive power doesn't necessarily make a fast motorbike, as daft as that sounds. But what the Ducati's got going for it, crank rotates in a different direction to a conventional bike. So it's going forward, so that naturally, the inertia naturally wants to keep your front wheel on the ground. It's got massive wings on it.
Another benefit.
Should keep the front wheel on the ground. So, you're fighting that front wheel at the TT.
Yeah.
If there's a little bit of advantage to be had by keeping that down, there you go. That's time in the bag.
There you are.
Yeah.
Did not know about that Ducatis. There you go. That is really clever, that, mate.
Super Sport.
About the TT?
Yeah.
Michael.
Right.
What's Michael on?
Yeah.
Super Sport?
Because he's not announced anything.
So. Is he not? But you think Michael, fair enough.
Yeah, R6.
And then Super Twin.
Jamie Coward.
Do you think? Yeah. I also think the Kawasaki will still.
Yeah, I do a lot of work with that team, with Kev and Simon Bleasdale, and the amount of effort they put in. I mean, Simon does your twin, and it's his life. Twins is just his life.
What about this pattern? It's always. What about Pete Hickman with this Norton?
I think that's not going to be allowed in.
Right.
It doesn't fit to any regs.
But it's already had a race. It raced last time we were there, 2019, with 3 bikes.
It was raced on the impression that it was going to be put into production, and it never has been. So,
right.
I don't know if anything's been announced, but I would be shocked if they let that in.
Right.
Wait,
no, I agree.
It's daft, isn't it? It's just like, essentially, that bike's no different to if you just knocked something up in your shed.
Like a
turned up with it.
Exactly.
Well, what's that? What's it based on? Like
where's the ruling?
Yeah, where's the rulings? Right, okay. Are you cheating? Are you not? Well, I don't know. Where's your homologation drawings? Where's there's nothing for it.
Yeah.
So, I hope they've not put a lot of money and effort into making that bike so they can race it, and then they're not allowed that.
Yeah,
that'd be a shame. But
it would be.
I can't see it. I can't see it.
What about them dreaded patterns in?
Listen, I think Michael will be hard to beat on the pattern.
Yes. Jamie's hungry for it though, isn't he?
But Jamie just gets better and better.
Yeah.
And I know that bike inside out, and what's gone into that, and it's good.
To be fair,
and he was very, very close to winning it.
The last TT was like a couple of tenths.
He was, yeah, very close to winning it last time, and I think he'll be even better.
He's looking leaner. He's looking faster. He's out in Spain. He's doing this. He's doing that, and he's hungry for it. And
I mean, also probably my outsider as well will be Lee on the Aprilia. When you look at someone, you think you should be good on it.
He is good on them, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's just such a strong super sport ride, and that's where he enjoys it, isn't he? So that's what he focuses on. But like you say, if he put a bit, if he put focused on it more,
if that Aprilia handles so much better than anything else, it might not necessarily need the power that, say, the Kawasaki and the Pattern have got. It could be interesting. It's exciting.
I think the twin, see, that's the thing. Everyone just says because it's a lower capacity class. it really does. Some of the best races we've ever seen in road racing have been on a super twin, the closest finishes and everything like that. And it's just like, I know, like Jamie's a good friend of mine, and I'm obviously in the same race, and obviously I want to win it, but I'd like to see Jamie win it. It would be great.
I would, yeah. And like I say, they've put so much effort into getting that bike where it is.
Yeah.
And they come close, so you want someone to take that next step, don't you?
We'll have a few Patreon questions, but just one from me. Have you ever had a bike plop itself on the dyno?
Yeah.
after a race? Because surely that's really awkward.
I have, yeah, actually, yeah. I have. In BSB, they run a Saturday sprint race, I think, for their Supersport. And it was the year Luke Stapleford won the championship on the Triumph.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was good, like very good power, that bike, but it was on the limit, and they were going through like engines every weekend, and he just won the race at Brands Hatch. But it just literally, I'd only just started going on the dyno, and it dropped a valve, and you're in that truck, and you've got the door shut, and you're on your own, and you're like, how's this gonna go down? So you open the door, and you're like, well, he went, has it let go? I don't know if it's mechanic or it might have been his dad or whoever. And I was like, yeah, look, I was only at 8,000 RPM and blah, 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 blah. Like, no, don't worry. That's what a relief. And, why? Well, if it's going to blow up on the dyno, it's going to blow up on track. If I hadn't have run that valve would have gone in morning warm-up, and then there'd have been
a panic on
to get ready for the race the same day. What had actually happened was I'd just given them the opportunity to change their engine overnight.
Yeah.
So they were happy as it goes. Yeah. But I'd say that's the only one, I think.
And if Joe Public came in and did that, it would be bull.
Yeah. But if an engine's going to go on a dyno, it's going to go on track. So
of course it is.
Where would you sooner it happen?
Yeah. Have you, when a new bike's being released, have you ever been gutted by one? You thought it was going to be so much more than it actually delivered. You think this is going to be, like what you said, a game changer. And you actually being like, that's shite.
Yeah, probably. I can't really think of any. I don't tend to get too excited about, wow, this new model. Because it's just like, right.
It's your day job, isn't it?
Yeah, don't get too excited. Let's just actually get excited after we've seen what it's like.
Yeah.
I've actually nicked that question from one of our patrons, Ty, because about a bike shipping itself on the dyno. That was one of his. He also said, what's the hardest bike to map?
Ooh. Don't know.
What's the most difficult bike you've worked on? That is just a chew to get engines out. You see a bike roll in, going,
yeah, probably the last one. I fit a power commander on a it's the scooter, the Yamaha scooter 520 thing, T-Max.
Right.
Oh, I actually did one for Shaky as well. Yeah, he's got a T-Max, and I fit a power commander for it, and. You're like, right, okay, it's a scooter, like, this will be easy. And then, like, you look at the fitting instructions for a power commander, and you're like, oh, okay, right, I've got to take all them panels off, and you've got to take the footboards off, and blah 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 blah. And that's when you just take a lot of pictures when you're doing it. So.
You just got to notice on the front, no T-Maxes ever that come to the shop whatsoever.
But I don't know, really, like. Certain bikes have the quirks and stuff, and you get just experience.
Yeah.
You get to know it. The difficult ones are when there's actually something wrong with the bike.
Yeah.
Okay, we get going. Every mapping job, really, because we know what we're doing, should be straightforward, and, we're able to do it. However, like when you get going and, oh, right, we've got a misfire, or, oh, this is wrong, or that's not making sense, blah, 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 that's when it breaks into a big job. They're the difficult ones. And hopefully, we try and avoid them. But so certain bikes, like, I mean, you rode the ZX10 for Dave's.
Yes, yeah.
And I ended up mapping that for you, the T. I don't know if you know, but the TT, because the throttle on that was absolutely awful.
It was horrendous.
Yeah,
it was bloody horrendous.
And that's how the bike came as standard, and it was difficult. It's kind of difficult to sort that, and I'll not explain why, because it's like boring and geeky, but
Yeah, I had the same bike the year before, and I had exactly this, or it might have been that year. We had exactly the same chew on. We wasted like so many tests pre-season, but for people that like either ride or we'll just explain the problem from when I first got on that bike. There's like nothing, and then basically the throttle would come in like a switch.
Mm-hmm.
So like for people that ride, when you get into the corner and you just want to just touch, like to take the tension out of the chain and like just kiss the throttle, and then you get your neutral throttle, and then as soon as you're ready you can then pick the bike up. There's like nothing, and then as soon as what you want as neutral throttle, it would then accelerate forward. And we messed around for ages, kind of like it was but
did you get there in the end?
Yeah
Because you got my map.
It
actually was.
Yeah, it was a long time of messing around.
Yeah.
And
so
I know some people were doing it by going sort of positive ETV values at low percentages, and some were taken out. And the year after, actually back to back both, and they were like exactly the same.
That was with MSS.
Yes,
I remember that.
Yeah, there was like, so doing it completely different ways felt the same. But it was. How is that possible for like a manufacturer?
You tell me. I don't know. You think like something coming from a manufacturer, you shouldn't need to touch basic.
Yeah, well,
no, we're not. It's complicated but basic. You know what I mean? The issue with the bike was the ETV. So the relationship between your grip angle, which is your wrist, what you twist, and how much the actual throttle blade was opening. And it, again, a bit of a funny story. I'd done a couple of bikes that I'd mapped and not addressed the issue. So they just come for fuel and ignition maps. Okay, right, get them fueling right. There you go. On the phone, bike's unrideable. And I have to say, it was probably, Gary Johnson was probably one of the first people to get it, and sort of, he's quite a technical guy and wants to bore you about the issues with the bikes and stuff. But just off his feedback, it was like, well, right, okay, this bike's got a major issue. We had Bournemouth Kawasaki based here at the time, and they were going to the Northwest with Glenn
and James.
So we had two stockers here, so I was desperate to see if I could make the bike nicer to ride, any better, get it on the dyno. And it was literally the day that they were getting the boat to go over to Ireland. It was like, right, we're finished, because James's bike got prepared by Factory Phil down at in Bournemouth, and Downshift Dave was doing the.
I think everyone's got a code name in this. Downshift.
Yeah. So Downshift Dave was doing Glenn's bike, and
just waiting to hear what our names are.
And I literally had 2 hours to figure it out, and you could ride it on the dyno, and literally you twist the throttle, like you say, nothing, bang, suddenly a load of torque, essentially. So measuring that, it become apparent that. And when you say going positive on the ETV, it's not actually going positive, as in we're delivering more throttle than the riders. So we're not going more on the throttle than the grip. But in that software, and this is a difficult one, this was a difficult one to map, because it's a kit ECU from the manufacturer that you're changing what are essentially trim tables. So you've got a throttle map, but we can't see that. So we don't know what it is. That's hidden. It's not viewable in the software. What is viewable in the software is a table with grip angle and RPM with just 100 in it. So when you look at it, you're like, right, okay, I've got to work out what's going on here.
Yeah.
So that 100 means 100% of the base table. You can't see the base table. So
you're literally shooting in the dark at this point.
You're shooting in the dark at this point. So this is where your dyno comes in, and the knowledge of how to use the dyno's capabilities to measure it. So what we do, we tap into grip position, put that into the dyno. So on the dyno, we can see where the throttle grip is. We tap into the actual throttle position, so then we can see where the actual throttle is.
Jeez.
So we're reverse engineering what's going on in the ECU. So suddenly we can see, right, what is actually going on is when you're asking for 5%, it's giving you about 2. When you're asking for 10, it's giving you about 5. The engine, when you're coming out of a corner at 6, 7, 8 grand isn't working at 10% throttle. So you move your wrist to 10%, okay, engine's not working. Move your wrist to 15%. Unfortunately, the ECU at 15% is delivered like nearly 15%. So incoming, nothing, bang, too much. So going positive in those figures, that 100, I think like, you know, if you go to 150, it means 50% more of the base table. So if it's not giving you enough, you're just that 150 is asking for 50 more. So the map that I ended up doing had stupid numbers all over it. It looked daft.
Wrong, but
it looked wrong.
Well, it was like trying to simulate what you're like on a bike, isn't it? It's all about that feel, isn't it? And you're trying to simulate that on a bike that's ratchet strapped to a table.
Do you know the whole?
But it works.
Do you know the whole base table thing? Is that common? Is it common not to be able to see that?
On a manufacturer's kit ECU that they make adjustable by the end user, yes.
Right.
Yeah. So even your fuel tables and all that, it's just when they come, they're all 0. So it's just an adjustment over the manufacturer's table, their base. Yeah, so I got this like map kind of roughly done and put it in, and literally feels like a normal bike again.
Yeah.
So I wrote a long email to the electronics guy, Andrea, and said, right, look, bear with me on this because it just looks like a kid's done this map. And it's a bit unknown, and you don't really want to be messing with your throttle stuff and then go into somewhere like the Northwest.
Yeah.
But I was fairly confident. So he said, right, we'll try it in testing. And because they went to Bishop's Court, Kirkstown, somewhere just for a bit of a shakedown. For whatever reason, Glenn crashed on his outlap, so on his stocker, and then just rode the superbike. So they never had a chance to test it. So both James and Glenn rode the bikes with this horrible throttle and finished first and second, I think. And he was like, definitely James won.
In the rain, he just cleared off.
However, at the Northwest, you quite quickly through that. You know what I mean? Slow corner, stand it up, come out, whack the throttle open. You're not rolling on and off on the edge of the tyre. So going back to Factory Phil, who looks after James, I said to Phil, look, I know you've not tested it yet, but I've still got this map if you want to use it. He said, let's have a look. So we had a look at it. He's like, what have you done here? I'm not putting that in my bike. I said, right, okay, no worries. He said, anyway, look, we just won the Northwest. Why change anything? Anyway, James went out the first night of practice, come in, threw the bike at him, said, that's unrideable. So then we put it in James's bike, and then I think I ended up putting it in your bike as well. And then obviously ended up in your bike for that year. So it was just, just not doing anything special or anything, just making the bike feel normal.
Yeah.
So, it's not just about getting maximum power and performance out of the bike when a bike's got a fundamental problem like that.
Here's a really it must be a bit of an awkward one for you, but for example, let's just say like a new BMW comes out and everyone's having like the same issue with it, and someone comes to here and like let's say that they've came up with a solution for it. It's really awkward because you're then in a position where you know the fix, but
they've got that advantage.
They obviously don't want you to share that, but it's kind of your job as a business to help. Is it a bit of a, because obviously you don't like sign a disclosure saying like you're not going to share it.
Yeah,
it must be a little bit of an awkward one.
Just try and operate with common sense.
And professionalism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and whatever. I'd never kind of just transfer someone else's map to someone else. It's not the done thing. And if someone puts a lot of effort into working, we work closely with teams, and there has to be that level of trust. And if you break that trust, you're sunk. So just keep. Right, okay, I'm here to help you, but look, we've got to do this together. It's not just, here you go, this is someone else's. There's a fix. It's someone else's hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Difficult one, that. No, but you're right though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a very, very.
Yeah, I mean, if you only need to do that once, and then like you've upset people, and it's the thing about what we're in. It's such a small industry.
Yeah.
that you can't get away with stuff.
Yeah.
No, the world's small, the paddock's even smaller, isn't it? That's the thing, isn't it?
Do you know if you weren't doing your job,
Yeah.
Okay.
but you wanted to be in the paddock, like in a race team, what sort of role would you like to work in a race team?
Not the electronics man.
No, I'd say probably on the electronics because it's what I know most about. Listen, you've got to do what you know, stick to what you know. That's the way to be successful.
Do you see yourself doing that?
No, not really.
Just happy doing what you do.
No one come asking. No one come asking.
I'd help people out doing that sort of stuff, but I like being in a position where you're part of sorting the bike out, but you're not changing a rear wheel in a pit stop at the TT. You know what I mean? No pressure.
Mm-hmm. Do you know, in terms of all the events, and I think I know the answer before I ask this, out of all of the events that you do, what's your favourite one?
TT.
That's what you're going to say.
Yeah. If you've never been to the TT, stick it on your bucket list. There's nowhere like it. There's nowhere like it, and there's no event that you can get that experience. It's fantastic, and listen, it's hard work for me when I'm there.
I was about to say, it's the only place in the world at 1 a.m, all he hears right outside of a police station. Douglas headquarters is right there, and he's on the dyno. It's class.
I've been there, well past midnight, still running bikes. There's sort of two occasions, especially. I can't think of the year. The first one will be the Superbike race is on the Saturday. So your last night of practice is Friday night, and something went when Hickman was riding for JG Speedfit Kawasaki.
On the Kawasaki, aye.
And they had an issue, and they basically had to take all of the electronics, loom, everything off their Superstock bike and put it on the Superbike that night, and then run it and map it.
Jesus.
So the team manager came over and said, "Look, here's the scenario. Can you hang around and do this for us later on?" 20 to 12 they came to the dyno.
Jesus.
But because I started working there, because I carried on working, because I knew it was going to be a late night, other teams could hear that the dyno was running and thought, I'll get in on that. Yeah, so I did a few people some favours, sort of going above and beyond. And the next minute, a Norton rocks up. I'm like, yeah? Like, oh, we heard you're still running. Can you give this a run? I'm like,
I've got to be better at some point.
Yeah, so that was a late one. And then we had it must have been at the last TT. So we do a lot of work with Padgett's.
Yes.
And got a lot of time for Clive, and we talk quite a lot, and it had an engine. Connor had an engine problem again. Friday night practice, so they came straight in, put it on the dyno, and it was like, yeah, okay, we're down on power. What's going on? So we literally changed every component on the bike, and that was about 1 o'clock. We finished, and at 1 o'clock, Clive just said, "We're gonna have to change engines." So I said, right. Here's what's gonna happen then. I said, you and Dave are going to change engines. So I'm going to go to bed. I said, but as soon as that engine's done and the bike's back together, I said, come back to the dyno truck. So half the dyno truck's living, so I was sleeping there. I said, knock on the door, and if I don't answer, just keep on knocking till I do. I said, I don't care what time it is, and we'll get it running and mapped, because you need to be ready by 10 for the race.
Yeah.
So yeah, Clive worked through the night with Dave. Knocked on the door 5:30, 6, maybe 6, I think 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm like, right, yeah, no worries. So sleep in my eyes, gets it onto the dyno. Clive's like this. I said, right, Clive, you go and have a rest. Just leave this to me. So I ran it in, mapped it, and Connor went out and finished second.
I bet you were like, you better finish this race after all that.
And then
it's not your normal 9 to 5 job.
No, it's not. No. And then sort of that night, this woman comes up to the dyno truck. She's like, can I have a word? I was like, so yeah, what's going on? She said, I just live there. I thought, oh,
Here we
shit,
go.
I know what's going on. She went, listen, you know, we're all for the TT, we're fans of the TT, but we've got people come over that are stopping with us, and, you know, there's a limit, and you were on the dyno till 1 o'clock last night. Oh, sorry, you were making noise. She didn't know what a dyno was or whatever. You were making a lot of noise till 1 o'clock last night, and it's not on. I said, look, I'm really, really sorry. I said, but it's not my choice. I don't want to be working that late at night, trust me. And then I just thought, can I get out of this? I said, it was for Connor Cummins, so it was for one of your own. So she was like, if it was Connor's bike, that's all right.
Totally.
So yeah, she went off happy. I was like, look, it'll not happen again.
Oh,
so hopefully it won't.
I was about to say, you're going to have to change your digs for this year coming, because when this podcast comes out, every person in that paddock's going to just go knock on the window till he wakes up and see what happens.
Some big changes ahead of the TT, isn't there? I know you were just mentioning before we started a few different things in the paddock, and like, are you looking forward to all the sort of new changes?
Yeah, I look forward to the TT regardless. Just saying, they seem to be on the ball this year and really, you know, changing the event for the better. One of the points that I did say before was that I looked at the paddock plan and they've moved all the riders' motorhomes to near the dyno truck. So
that'll teach them. You'll be up at 2 a.m. like that. Yeah. There you go, lads. That's for you.
So I don't know how that's quite going to pan out. But...
It'll be grand. I grew up sleeping next to that noise. It was outside. One of my favourite memories is my dad's G50 single cylinder. I was strobing that. And basically holding out with a light, just getting the timing done on the engine. My dad woke us up and went, hold that, hold the trigger when I tell you to. And I'm like, 3 a.m. and you've got a single cylinder British engine going bam, 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 and no one bats an eye. That is the best thing about the paddock.
Yeah.
There is no snowflakes in the paddock and the TT. Everyone is
it's an engine. And also, like, you know, people hear an engine running at that time, they know someone's got an issue.
Of course they do.
And it could be them. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
People have like empathy for other people because the job's hard enough as it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like right now, do you never get any sort of urges or things to have a go yourself, and like with the whole, do you never like look, because obviously you're so involved in getting the power and stuff, do you never fancy a bash yourself?
No, so like I had my own racing career.
Yeah.
So I started racing go-karts when I was 10. Then moved into car racing, and then eventually raced in British touring car. It was relatively successful. I've never felt the need to go and ride a bike on a track because I was pretty good at racing cars, and I'd want to be as good as that as I was on a. I'm on a bike.
You want to transfer that success,
and I know I won't be able to because I'm not good enough. Yeah. So
you'd be bitching at boats now with that pond.
So I'd frustrate myself.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't enjoy it because of the frustration.
What about like say on I know they don't do Mad Sunday anymore, but like a blast around the island? Do you never go?
Scares me.
A parade? You wouldn't even fancy it.
Scares me, honestly. When I go to the TT and you're there, and you live in it, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're like so wrapped up in it, and it's like 2 weeks. I'd say for the next 3 months, I have dreams where I'm on the start line on a bike that I don't want to be on. And I set off, and I don't know my way. I don't know my way around.
You're literally living a nightmare.
I have recurring dreams where, like, I'm racing at the TT. Yeah. So it's like combining, like, because obviously because I used to race myself, and then I'm with it, and I'm like, that's the last thing I want to do, and then like for some reason in my subconscious, I'm like at start line like that.
The bloke's tapping you. Go. I'm like, I don't want to, mate.
Which way do I go?
Come on.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I tell you what, we actually forgot to do this on the birdie watch. Do you want? Have you got a problem with your hand or something?
Yeah.
Did you say? So we'll leave the grip strength game.
You're curious.
Do you fancy a bash anyway? Your mate?
Well,
your mate was pretty impressive. Like
the gas man.
Yeah.
The gas man.
Andy the gas man. Yeah.
Everyone has a code name in this bit. This is
yeah.
You broke your skateboard or something like that.
Yeah, I broke my skateboard. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Karting, so
watch this. He's gonna bang out.
What do you mean when you were a kid you broke it?
No, it was be about 17, 18 or something like that.
Right, aye.
It was my own fault as well. I didn't put my front wheel on properly, so ended up going.
That'll teach you.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, ended up going into a banking, knocked myself out. Found my way back to Parc Fermé, talking gibberish, and then was like, oh, wrist is hurting, and then sure enough, I broke my wrist.
Lovely. Were you British champion in the go-kart? No.
Yes. Yeah.
How many times?
Twice, I think.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Some achievement there.
That is a hell of an achievement. He had a go at it, you know. And he's you know, when you go out with all our mates, he's rapid. I mean, he did this BSB.
I didn't even do it. It wasn't even British. It was just a club race. I got absolutely annihilated.
Where did you go?
What you want to say?
Where did you go?
Teesside. Yeah, it was on is it Supercart or whatever?
I don't know.
No, but he turned up right, and he was like, but like I say, when he comes out with all of us, it's like Chris is fast and that. Chris, like I can imagine you just pulling up there, going, mid pack. That'd be nice.
I mean, Mark, give us a go.
Do you know what? It's one of those sports where when you start, you're absolutely crap. There's no shortcut.
No
one goes in and like he's like straight to the front. It's like got to learn so much. So, you know, Lewis Hamilton didn't rock up and win his first race. He was at the back, and like,
did you used to race against Lewis?
No, he's a little bit older.
Different era.
Only just.
Would you have been at the same meetings?
No, I don't think I ever was. No, be at the same meetings as. I'm trying to think. Although they were like being a junior category to what I was in, but for a couple of years, like Alex Albon, Lando Norris, those sort of people.
Right.
I used to race with George Russell's older brother, Benji Russell.
You know, if someone gave you a chance to do the rally lap around the TT, would you have a tickle at it then?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it'd be a good. I've never even driven round the TT course.
You're literally in that. You're in that dyno truck. God love you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone's like, oh, if you managed to get round for a lap, I'm like, oh yeah, are you having a laugh? You know, if I'm not
slept for 3 weeks.
Yeah, if I'm not in the dyno truck, I'm straight to beer tent.
There you are. That's where everyone's going to find you. From there to there. Good lad. Good lad. Definitely get you a few beers. But anyway, have a quick. We're not going to record this one. I want to see what the crack is here. Go on, son.
Not bad.
That's upsetting.
Was that? What was that?
That was 11 and a half.
11 and a half.
Decent.
That's how you shot, man.
That's all right. Imagine what I'd be like fully fit.
That's trying to prize people wallets off them when they've got to pay for them like that. I'm stronger than you, son. Straight off the bat. But no, hey, thank you very much. And I think we've got some really exciting stuff coming up at the TT. And now that I've got to pull my finger out and organise some bikes.
Just before we wrap things up, I obviously was speaking to you. It was a few months ago now.
Yeah.
And it's funny the way it's worked out because you were just telling us like so many things that were gonna that were in the pipeline, and literally everything you were telling us has just been coming out, and like rides keep getting announced. And I was thinking like, oh, I heard about that months ago off you. Have you got any other?
Yeah,
rumors?
but it's probably probably good that we didn't do it in a way because no one would tell me anything ever again. I don't know. What do you want to know?
Everything.
What's left? There's nothing left really, is there?
Really.
You know, Superbike grid set. I think everything's pretty much. Everything's.
Do you want to start a rumour? Do you want to start one? Ulster's coming back all of a sudden again. DynoJet are funding it. You know anything like that?
No, I do. Yeah, sometimes I think, I've got to watch what I say. Like, I know too much.
Get it. But anyway, next time we're Chasin The Racin, we're going to reveal all those secrets. There you go, as simple as that. But no, honestly, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks
and I'm looking forward to waking you up at 2 a.m. doing my bike at the TT. It's going to be good crack, man. It's going to be good crack.
Class. And huge thanks to our sponsors, Colchester Kawasaki, and obviously all of our patrons. And thank you very much for your time. And look forward to catching up with you sometime soon.
Cheers.
Definitely. Cheers. Thank you.
Chasin The Racin. Powered by Colchester Kawasaki, part of the Global Moto Group. We supply new Aprilia, Moto Guzzi, Vespa, Royal Enfield, Kawasaki, Sim, Mutt and Benelli motorcycles.